on our BSN guest, Mr. Triple Crown Derek. It's been a while since we've seen you. Oaklawn's opened up. You've been a busy guy. Got a lot of things going on. National championship games, playoffs. NFL going on. Me and the Mouth last week got to see the Detroit Lions versus the Dallas Cowboys right there in front of us. Had a lot of craziness going on, but we're as Cowboy fans, we're pretty happy right now. Being in the number 2 overall seed and got the Commanders this week. But more importantly, right now, let's get down to it. What did you think about the Michigan-Alabama game and the Washington-Texas game? Then we'll break it down.
So I still think that, overall, it's easy to go back and say right now, but, man, I really think Georgia's still the best team in the SEC. But, you got to think, if it wasn't for a 4th and 31 or whatever Alabama converted against, then it wouldn't even have this discussion. But and I think if Georgia was in it, honestly, I think they would sweep this group. But with the Michigan and Alabama game, I was actually watching it on my phone on the way home from the track on Monday night, and I'll just tell you all what I had happen. I made a bet on December 4th whenever we did our last podcast, and I made the bet that day, and I kind of forgot I even had it. I put $100 on 17 parlay, and I had a 5 of the 7 done, and then I had Bama plus 1.5, and I had Washington plus 4, and it was $100 to win like $4,100. And I was like, so I was like, I couldn't believe it whenever it was up 20-13. I was like, all right, this is great, minute and a half, we're going to be good. And it's bad whenever you sit there and think if they score, please go for 2, please go for 2. And I can't believe Bama let them score, in that last drive. And then I can't believe that they scored so easily in overtime. That was 2 plays, and Quorum just kind of, he just ran through them. It's almost like, and I heard this from multiple people that watched the game as well. I was trying to watch it on a 6-inch screen. I just don't think that – I felt like kind of that Alabama's all of their intensity and everything was there against Georgia, and it wasn't there. Like, after they beat Georgia, they accomplished what they were trying to do, and I feel like they let the guard down against Michigan. I just feel like Michigan wanted it a lot more, and I think that was the end of the game. I think that's what happened. It felt like they just ran through Bama. But I wasn't a real big fan of the last play of the game. We saw it a lot with Arkansas this year as well. You got your 4th and 1, 4th and 2, whatever. I think it was actually 4th and 3 on 4th and goal. And you start at the 9-yard line with the quarterback. I know, I get it. That's what he's used to. But I'm like, come on, let's at least give him a chance to scramble out and run a little bit. But, if they would have made it, they would have been the hero as well, and everything would have been fine. But with that, I think that game still could have gone either way. They could have, right? Look, Michigan, they went for 4th and 2 on their own 30. All they had to do was stop that. Would they get like a 35-yard gain or 40-yard gain out of that? So there were some big plays by Michigan to get there at the end, and so it's going to factor into what I'm picking on the championship game. So then we go to Washington, and so I was kind of down at that point, right? Because I thought I had this big bet won, but so then I went and wrote it back with Washington, and I've been saying Washington, you embrace them, so I don't know, week 2 or 3, right?
I will say that you have been on Washington since we started this thing, buddy. Yeah. You've been on them.
I have been. I think their offense is incredible, and it starts with Penix. He's just such an accurate passer. The offensive line, I don't think gets enough credit. They're giving him a lot of time. He's only been sacked like 10 or 11 times. And not only that, it's not just the offensive line. He gets the ball out quick, right? So I think that's something that makes them so lethal and makes them almost in every game they play. And you go look at their schedule that they weren't ran through. To beat Oregon twice, I didn't think it was going to happen. I know y'all didn't think it was going to happen. But then you start going to look at these other teams they played. I feel like to get to where they are now, I feel like they had a harder route. And I usually don't say that about the Pac-12. I really haven't in the past. I don't think anybody has, but I felt like the Pac-12 was a lot better this year. And so anyway, we are where we are. And I think, between this, the line right now is 4.5, right? For Monday night. And I'm going with Washington. And but there's a couple.
I like it. Here we go. I'll hear about it.
Yeah, I'm going to hold with it, and I think here's why. But I think there's a couple scenarios, especially if whenever you're betting. This is the way I would play it. There's one key to this whole thing, right? And that is Dylan Johnson needs to play, and they're saying he's going to play. That's the running back, right? He didn't get enough credit. I mean, that guy ran for 1,200 yards this year, 16 touchdowns, and he was. I watched a lot of Washington games lately, because it'd be like the last leg and a lot of my parlays and stuff like that. And like you said, I've been on them from the get go, and he was the change of pace that Penix could throw it. He's got 3 receivers in Odunze, Polk, and McMillan that are incredible. I mean, all 3 of them are next level receivers, especially Odunze, and but he would spread it out, and then he would pop one, right? Or he'd get in there, and I guess my point is he keeps the defensive line and the linebackers and the safety, he keeps them honest. And without him, I just don't know, because I looked at their depth chart. Their next guy, he's already, I think, transferring out, and then there's another guy that's been in there. And there's not really a proven guy after him. So, but if Dylan Johnson is healthy and he plays, but he's got a bad foot, and today they said he's playing, I've got to bet if he plays. And then if he doesn't play, I've got another bet, right? So I think he's the key. And then obviously, can they keep Penix off the ground? Because I think if you give him enough time with those weapons that he has, he's going to find the open receiver, and he's accurate enough. He's going to make good plays. So that's my key to the game. Really is Johnson playing and keeping Penix off his back. They're going to score on Washington. They're going to score. We know that. I mean, it's going to be a track meet. But as I was running through some of these numbers, and I got some here, I'll share with you guys. I was a little shocked with the little amount of passing offense that Michigan has done, right? Michigan's going to run the ball, obviously, but you also got to look at their season. And I start thinking, well, is that a reflection of the team, or is that a reflection of the game situations they're in? Hell, they were playing Iowa who can't score, and they were playing, these teams that they were up 24-0 at half, and so they do run the ball a lot. They didn't need to pass it. So
I think they played Penn State, didn't run it in the whole second half. I mean, they ran it every play, did not throw a pass in the second half against those guys. To prove the point.
So exactly. So this is the way I play. This is the way I see it playing out. Dylan Johnson plays. If he's healthy, he can actually play the game and not just be a decoy, because if you decoy, I don't think it's not going to be as effective for Washington's offense. I really think that Michigan's going to have a hard time scoring with Washington. And I know you go look at their scores and be like, Derek, they scored 49 points. They scored 41 points. They weren't playing nobody. They were actually playing nobody, and they were just running the ball down their throat. I mean, the Quorum guy, I don't know how many touchdowns he ended up with, like 25 touchdowns on the year. It was ridiculous. I mean, you're talking LaDainian Tomlinson numbers. But my point with that is, I don't think I think if they start getting tested on the pass game, I don't think J.J. McCarthy will keep up. I know he's a good quarterback and all that, but I think that Penix in that offense is proven. So my thing is, if Penix and them score, they're going to win the game. I mean, they're going to outrun them. And but he's got to stay off his back. No sacks. They only had 11 all year, and then Dylan Johnson needs to play, because the receivers are going to do their thing. I think they can get the ball to Odunze almost anytime they want. And that's whenever I'm looking at these bets, I'm going to go through some props here in a little bit, and I move the lines. I'm not taking what everybody's picking, but when I move these lines, part of that is I think they're going to try to shut Odunze down. But what's going to do is it's going to open up Polk and McMillan. A lot of people don't realize that McMillan, he only played 8 games this year, and he is their slot receiver. And whenever Penix is in trouble, which he's going to be, right? I mean, he's going to be going through his reads 1, 2, and then looking for that third. He's going to know where McMillan is, so McMillan's going to get the over on the yards, right? So what I've got for you guys, I've got two plays here. Like I said, one with Dylan Johnson playing, it's a big play. It's an 8-legger, right? I know it's a lot, but I'm buying them down to get good odds or to get lower, easier to hit, but you'll with a good payout. And then I'm going back to a 3-leg parlay, assuming that Dylan Johnson plays and is healthy. And it's kind of like whatever you want to do there. And you can take these plays, and if you think that Michigan's going to win, flip flop it, right? I mean, it's not a big deal because the odds stay the same, right? So the first one I've got is the big play, and this is the one where just based on the flow of the game, I try to figure out how the flow of the game is going to go, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. But I think that Washington's going to outrun them, and I don't think Washington will let off the gas. But to start it out, I'm going to take Penix Jr. over 250 yards passing. I went and looked at every game that he's played in, and he only did not do it twice. And they were games, one against Washington State and one was against Arizona. And he struggled in that game, and he didn't have all of his receivers. Might ask, what has he done other than that? I mean, usually it's 350 to 400. They average as a team 350. He averages 350. If you go on the defensive side, Michigan, they only give up 150. Okay? But then again, they ain't playing Penix Jr., right? And so you're talking about they're going to go play this best team, this team that has three of the best receivers in college football, and then him. 250 is going to be an easy hit, even if they get behind and it doesn't come out the way that we think. And even if Washington doesn't win, he's going to be thrown from behind. So I think it's a win-win bet there. Then I'm going to back it up with all three receivers. Okay. And with all three receivers, I'm going and I'm playing the minimum amount of yards that you can hit with them. So that's McMillan, Odunze, and Polk. McMillan's yards are 39.5. Go over. He's going to go over that. Odunze is 69.5. He's going to do that on about 4 catches because he's going to get about a 30 or 40 yarder because he can go up over top of people and they'll test him. And then Polk is 39.5. So Penix Jr. 250 plus, McMillan 39.5, Odunze 69.5, Polk 39.5. Okay. Then you go to the other side of the ball with Michigan. They're going to run the ball. They're going to run the ball on Washington, and they're going to gash them. They're going to gash them for 15 yards, 20 yards. You're going to see Penix score, and the next thing you know, on the next drive, it's going to be 3 plays, and they're going to be on the 20 in the red zone, right? And it's going to be those gashes, and it's going to be Corum. I think he's going to be over 89.5 rushing yards. That's the line. So Penix, the 3 receivers, and Corum, who's their playmaker. I mean, it'd be easy to sit there and say, yeah, Corum's going to go score a touchdown. I don't like playing that game, right? I just don't like doing it. They're harder to do. I'd rather count on them getting their yards. And then all that with Washington plus 11. All right. And so I'm moving the line from 4.5 to 11. A lot of times, you can sit there and you go to 10, but if you look on, especially Oakland.com, or Oakland Sports, and you move that to that plus 11, what ends up happening there is you go from minus 220 to minus 286 versus 10 and 11. I don't know how many times I've seen the game come down to where, you have 10 or 10.5 points, you think you're safe, and then somebody goes for 2, and it just gets screwed up. So 11 is a safe number there. All that is plus 8. Well, I'm sorry, one more. Penix Jr. over 1.5 touchdowns. They're going to win. He's going to throw over 1.5 touchdowns, right? And so I missed that one. He did that one last week. I hit that one with him. He threw 450 yards. But all that, you get 9-1 odds. Okay? So pretty good bet there. I mean, and what you're counting on is game flow. And if you don't like that bet and you want to play it a different way and somebody thinks you want to shut down Penix Jr., good luck. But if somebody thinks that, then you can play the unders, right? And you go the opposite end. Like I think Odunze's upper limit's 120. We had 128 last week, right? And so I try to play the highs and lows. And I mean, me personally, when I'm gambling a lot on these games, I don't like to bet the under because I like cheering for scoring, right? I mean, and that's part of it, especially I like seeing action. But that right there, those 8 bets are plus 850 or plus 900, and they're moving right now a lot. So that's the big one. Okay. If they come out and they say Dylan Johnson is 100%, then this is where I'm rolling. I'm rolling Washington money line. That gives me really good numbers right out of the gate. It's like plus 150 to 160. And then I'm going McMillan over 50. I'm bumping him up a little bit more, but you're getting better odds there. And then I'm going Odunze over 100 yards. I think if they're going to do that, he's going to have a big game. I mean, he's had a couple 200-yard games, 180-yard games, 150-yard games. I think he's had 15 touchdowns this year. He's his guy. Yeah, I mean, we're going to watch this guy play on Sundays for sure, as we've been talking about. But those three right there alone, so Washington money line, McMillan over 50, and Odunze over 100 or 99.5 is 7-1 by themselves, right? And so that's pretty good payback there. If you like Washington. If you don't like Washington, then you can throw in Michigan, right?
Well, it's an equal opportunity situation here.
I mean, it is. But hey, I would be the biggest hypocrite in the world if I came on here and I said, hey, Michigan's going to win this game, because I really don't think that they should. Because I don't think they should have got past Bama. I think Bama wasn't Bama, and I think Bama played excellent against Georgia. Right. And then I also start looking at this. I was excited going into the Bama game. I mean, and because you start looking at SEC versus Big Ten. Right. And as I was going through there, I thought Bama should have beat them. And, who did we have? We had Missouri played
State. Ohio State.
Yeah, Ohio State. Beat them pretty. It was an ugly game. Don't get me wrong. A good defensive game back and forth. Quarterbacks didn't do much there, but Missouri beat them. Then you had Ole Miss come and play Penn State. These are arguably the two best teams in the conference, right? I mean, behind Michigan, and Ole Miss handled them. I mean, really did. I mean, they were getting points for, and that was the easiest bet all weekend. They were getting points, and they ended up winning by, I think they ended up winning by like 11, but it was like a 3-touchdown game for most of the second half. And so going into the next game, I was sitting there thinking, man, Bama, I mean, because you looked at the Michigan and the Ohio State game, it came down to one play, right? And there was an interception in the end zone, and that was the end of that play. And so I really think the SEC was misrepresented in that playoff game. I think Georgia would have really done the job, but I think that Alabama should have won that game. And they were up with a minute and a half, guys. I mean, come on. So I think that Washington's going to outscore them. And, I think we'll have a little bit of a track meet, and then to a point where Michigan will quit scoring because they're going to try to run the ball. I may be completely wrong, but I don't think so. I think I've watched enough enough Washington ball. I know what they're going to do, and they're going to put up 30s, if not 40s, in this game. And a lot of people think opposite of that, but they're going to.
A lot of people do. That's the guys on TV. And of course, they're going to push Michigan a little bit. But you have been on Washington, and our show, we've watched Oregon all year long. I kind of got on that wagon and really rode it as much as possible. And like you said, you have been on Washington all the way. And the part that people don't understand, they're looking at the Texas game. That's the way they play all year long. They've won all those one-score games. And this is another thing, just to keep, do I think Michigan's got the best players? I don't think there's any question about that. But here's something that's interesting. What's the first series of the Alabama game? What's Michigan do on the first play? They throw an interception. Harbaugh's teams get nervous. Okay. Yeah. So the closer it is, and just watch how that plays out, because Washington has been there in those one-score games. And just my philosophy on some things, Michigan's got to kind of blow it out, or if it's close, it could go either way. But I do.
I agree. Yeah. And that's where I think that they're I don't know even if they get in a tight game. I mean, this game this weekend was a low-scoring game, 20-13, going into to overtime. But they're not going to hold Washington down like that. And I really think that to your point, unless they've got that commanding lead, which they've had all year long, then whenever they have to start mixing in the pass and trying to actually move the ball down the field, it's not going to work, right? and enough to keep up with Washington. I really think Washington has seen a lot more passing and a lot better passing teams than Oregon and USC and Oregon State and these teams out of the Pac-12. I think they're more prepared for it. Now, their linebackers, you're going to run through them? Yeah, you're going to, right? And we all know what this will probably come down to is turnovers. Somewhere just along the line, it's like, damn it, that turnovers is what end up going to make the decision in the game. But I'm with you. I think that if you put Michigan under pressure, we haven't really seen it yet until that Bama game. That was the first time that they've had any type of adversity all year. I mean, you got to give Penix and Washington team a lot of credit. Look at that. I mean, to beat Oregon twice on literally where it comes down to the last possession, right? I mean, who say Oregon shouldn't have been in the top four, right? If we would have had this 8-team playoffs, they may have came in here and swept the whole thing. So that's what I'm rolling with. Two good plays there. I really think that. I'm sure I'll find a few other spot plays. But I really love doing these props. And as long as everybody stays healthy on the field, I wanted to put Dylan Johnson in there somewhere, but didn't know if he's healthy. Not only that, they don't even have props up for him yet, just in case you want to bet, because they don't know. Like today, they're saying expected, but yeah, it's a risk. You could go out there first play and hurt his foot too. So, but I think we're there was a couple things I wanted to point out. Washington's given up 11 sacks. The Michigan's given up 19. Michigan's defense only allows 150 yards passing. Washington, believe it or not, only allows 250. And that sounds like a lot, but it's not in their conference, right? And especially as fast a pace as they play. Michigan's pass defense, they give up 220 yards. And he's going to smoke that. He's going to smoke it because he's got too many weapons. And I looked at kickers. I was trying to figure out, there's one guy that's just terrible and one guy's actually good, and that's going to be a part of the factor in the game. One's 16 for 20 and one's 16 for 19. I think there's the even playing field there, right? You look at third down percentage, Washington's 47, Michigan's 44. One thing that stuck out was just that run versus pass, right? Yeah. And so if Michigan can get in and get a 2-touchdown lead, they're going to need more than that, I think. But if they can somehow jump on them, that's the only way I think that Michigan can beat Washington.
Well, I think it's going to be a great game. And, like I said, we've had the committee got it right this year a little bit. Georgia, you're going to have some of that. But,
right.
Two great games. I think we're going to have one, Monday night, no doubt. Well, Derek, hey, man, we appreciate it. We'll get you back on here. Got the Oakland running and getting ready for a little NFL playoffs. And once again, boys, we're number one in the NFC East. Just throwing it out there right now. But throwing it out there.
Hey, well, yeah, there's a lot of people that have a lot to say about that on that.
Oh, there is. There's a lot of people, we had Dan Skipper on, but, he's a big fan of the show. We'll have to talk to him about it. But, at the end of the day, it is what it is, guys. It just is what it is.
I'll say this. Philly's folded. I mean, they have folded, and they have folded bad, right? And I tell you,
you couldn't have a better bunch.
I still think NFC. I think NFC it's San Francisco, as long as McCaffrey is not hurt too bad. He strained his calf. And then on the AFC side, I tell you a team that I think you got to watch out for. We talked about early in the year as well. They played like crap throughout the year. Their entire defense got hurt. Obviously, everybody's thinking about the Ravens, right? Chiefs doesn't have it in regards to the receiver. They don't have it. I think Kelsey's finally done, right? Well, I'm not done, but he's down a level. He's got billionaire money on his mind over here. But is the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are going to start. They're going to beat the Dolphins this week, win out their division, and you watch. They're going to come in and they're going to play pretty good throughout the playoffs. And if they can get by the Ravens, I think it could be the Bills versus the Niners. But I think they've got to get by the Ravens. And then one team nobody even talks about. How good is C.J. Stroud going to be in the future, guys? I mean, he's going to be one of our next level quarterbacks. He's only 22 years old. I didn't know that. But he's incredible. I mean, he makes that team actually go down there in Houston. So they missed him for 2 or 3 games there. But it's going to be fun. Look forward to it. Look forward to doing our next show.
Well, we'll look forward to it too, because it'll be playoff time, and that's when it gets good, boys. That's when it gets. Well, Trevor Crown, Derek, we appreciate you coming on, man. We'll have you on next week. Get ready for NFL playoffs, but looking forward to this game Monday night. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Happy New Year, everybody. See you.
See you, buddy.